The desire to see someone punished for what they did to you is one of the most honest emotions you'll ever feel. That burning in your chest when you replay the betrayal, the demotion you didn't deserve, the credit stolen from your work. You've probably wondered what would happen if you turned your manifesting power toward making them pay. By the end of this, you'll understand why that impulse, followed through, would cost you everything you're building. Start with what's actually happening when revenge takes root in your mind. You've been practicing assumption, living in the end, holding a state. Maybe you've seen results. Money showed up. Opportunities opened. You felt the momentum of consciousness working in your favor, and then someone crossed you. A co-worker sabotaged your project. A boss took your idea and presented it as their own. A business partner walked away with the profits you generated. The anger is real. The injustice is real. So you sit down to do what you've learned. You close your eyes. You begin to construct a scene. Only this time, the scene involves their downfall, their humiliation, their loss. This is where the mechanism turns against you. Neville Goddard taught that consciousness is the only reality. Every assumption hardens into fact. Every state you occupy becomes the world you walk through. He also taught something most people skip past when the rage is fresh. You can only experience what you are conscious of being. To imagine another person suffering with enough vividness to manifest it, you have to become the version of yourself who lives surrounded by suffering. You have to marinate in destruction. You have to feel it as real. Your subconscious mind doesn't process the target of an emotion. It processes the emotion itself. When you spend 20 minutes in a vivid scene of someone losing their job, their reputation, their peace, your deeper mind registers one thing. Loss is real. Loss is happening. Loss is here. The address on the envelope doesn't matter. The content of the letter does. Think about the last time you held a grudge for more than a few days. Your sleep suffered. Your focus scattered. Your creative energy, the very energy that fuels your work ethic, your discipline, your capacity to build, drained into a loop of imaginary confrontations. You were rehearsing destruction while your goals sat untouched. That's the first tax revenge collects, and it collects daily. But the cost runs deeper than lost productivity. The Kabbalion describes the principle of cause and effect operating across every plane of existence, including the mental. Every thought you send out is a cause. The effect returns on the same frequency. Attempt to collapse someone else's world, and you've just set a cause in motion on the frequency of collapse. The universe doesn't check your justification. It mirrors your vibration. Goddard put it even more directly. He said, "The world is yourself pushed out. Every person in your reality is you, wearing a different face. The coworker who stole your credit, a reflection of some assumption operating in your consciousness, perhaps a belief that your work goes unrecognized, that people take from you, that success requires guarding against theft. Manifesting their punishment means attacking your own reflection. You'd be putting your fist through a mirror and wondering why your knuckles bleed. This is where most people push back. So I'm supposed to just let them get away with it? That question comes from a reasonable place. You worked hard, you showed up. You did the thing, and someone benefited at your expense. The answer lives in a distinction that separates people who manifest lasting success from people who manifest in circles. Reacting to the external world keeps you chained to it. Every moment spent crafting someone else's downfall is a moment you've handed your creative power to the person who wronged you. They're living rent-free in the one space that matters, your imagination. They've become the central character of your inner world, and whatever occupies the center of your inner world expands outward. Your work ethic is sacred because it represents sustained, directed consciousness. The discipline to show up every day, to hold a vision, to do the inner and outer work required, that discipline has a frequency. It vibrates at creation, at building, at forward motion. Revenge vibrates at destruction. You cannot hold both frequencies simultaneously. One will dominate, and whichever one dominates will print itself across every area of your life. Picture this concretely. You're building a business, a career, a body of work. Every morning you wake up and choose your state. On the days you choose the state of the person whose empire is rising, whose work speaks for itself, whose results compound, those days produce momentum. On the days you wake up and the first thought is about them, about what they deserve, about the scene you've been replaying, those days produce nothing. Worse than nothing. They produce friction in the very channels your good is trying to flow through. Florence Scovel Shinn described this as the boomerang principle. She taught that whatever you wish for another, you wish for yourself. Wish them failure, and your subconscious begins preparing you for failure. Wish them loss, and your own abundance springs a leak. She watched this pattern repeat across hundreds of people who came to her for help with their manifestations. The ones who couldn't let go of resentment stayed stuck every time. The correlation was so consistent she treated it as law. And she was right. Because the law of assumption doesn't have a clause for justified anger, there's no exception written into consciousness that says, this bitterness won't count because they really did wrong you. Consciousness is an equal opportunity mirror. It reflects what you hold, period. So what do you actually do with the anger? You feel it, fully. You let it burn without building a scene around it. Anger is information. It tells you where a boundary was crossed, where your sense of worth was violated. That information is valuable. The mistake is converting that information into a manifesting session aimed at someone else's destruction. Then you redirect. This is where your work ethic becomes your greatest spiritual tool. The same discipline that gets you to the gym at 5 in the morning, that keeps you at your desk when everyone else has quit for the day. That discipline can hold a state under pressure. You take the energy of the anger, and you pour it into your vision, your success, your expansion, the version of you who has already moved so far beyond this situation that the person who wronged you is a footnote in a story about triumph. Goddard called this revision. You take the memory, the betrayal, the theft, the injustice, and you revise it in imagination. You replay the scene as you wish it had happened. Your work was recognized. Your contribution was honored. The outcome was fair. This does something that revenge never can. It actually changes the assumption operating in your consciousness. It rewrites the belief that people take from you and replaces it with the belief that your work is always recognized and rewarded. The revised memory doesn't require the other person to change. It requires you to change your inner posture. And when your inner posture shifts, the outer world reorganizes. New opportunities arrive that match the frequency of recognition rather than theft. People who value your work appear, the ones who don't gradually lose relevance in your experience. There's a cost to this approach that deserves honesty. It's harder. Revenge fantasies feel satisfying in the moment. They scratch an itch. Revision feels like surrender when you first attempt it, like you're letting someone off the hook. Your ego will resist. It will tell you that strength means making them pay, that self-respect requires their downfall. But consider what genuine self-respect looks like in practice. A person who respects their own creative power would never waste it on someone else's destruction. That's like using a precision instrument to hammer nails. Your imagination is the most sophisticated tool in existence, the very mechanism through which worlds are built. Pointing it at revenge is a misuse so severe it borders on self-harm. Your work ethic already proves you understand sustained effort. You already know that the compound effect operates on consistency, that showing up daily matters more than any single dramatic gesture. Apply that same understanding to your mental diet. A single revenge fantasy won't destroy your manifestations. A daily habit of resentment will dismantle them piece by piece. So gradually you won't connect the cause to the effect until the damage is extensive. The person who wronged you made a choice that reflects their consciousness. Let it. Your consciousness is your territory, and every moment you spend tending it, revising, affirming, building in imagination, puts distance between you and the version of reality where their actions define your story. Shinn said something that cuts through all the complexity. She said that every person is a golden link in the chain of your good, even the ones who betray you. Because without the contrast, you'd never clarify what you actually want. Without the boundary violation, you'd never discover the depth of your own power to choose a different state. The work ahead of you is simple and demanding at the same time. Feel what you feel, then build what you came here to build. Every revision is a brick. Every redirected thought is mortar. The structure you're raising in consciousness will dwarf whatever small injury someone inflicted on a version of you that's already becoming a memory. Your imagination was given to you for creation. The moment you turn it toward destruction, no matter how justified, you've volunteered to live in the rubble. Build instead, build relentlessly. Build until the betrayal is so far below you that looking down makes you dizzy.